Hello everyone, welcome back to this course. In today's lecture, we are going to do something really exciting. We will be setting up a TypeScript based project right from the scratch. We shall be installing Express.js framework and writing our very first Express.js server with probably a couple of routes implementation. This lecture is going to be entirely hands-on. The very first thing we shall do here is to initialize a new Node.js project. So let's begin by creating a new folder for our Express.js project. You could name it anything. I will call it, let's say, Express.js demo as of now. So I would use this mkdir command in order to create a new folder. Now, after creating this folder, I have to navigate inside this folder. Okay, so I have navigated to this particular folder. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to initialize this directory as a Node.js project using npm init command. So if I directly issue this npm init command, in that scenario, this is going to ask certain configuration related questions from me in the terminal, and I would be required to respond to those. In order to skip answering those prompts, what I could do is I could add this Y flag here, and this is going to create this or the package.json file in our current directory with default values. And as you all know, this package.json file helps us in managing the dependencies and the scripts for our project. So for now, the Express TS demo folder already has this package.json file that we just created. Now, the next thing we are going to do here is we are going to install TypeScript. As you all know that we have already installed TypeScript in the global environment in one of our previous lectures, but since this is our very first lecture where we are going to experiment with Express.js, we are going to be installing TypeScript locally for this project. And since we are installing TypeScript and we are working with TypeScript, we are going to be installing another package or utility named tsnode. Now this tsnode utility is going to allow us to run TypeScript code directly. And in addition to that, we shall also be installing the types node package, which will provide us with the type definitions for the Node.js ecosystem. So we are going to install three dependencies. One is TypeScript, another one is tsnode, the third one is going to be types of node. But one thing to note here is that we don't need any of these dependencies in our production environment, because when we will ship our application code to the production environment, we shall only ship the JavaScript code, and JavaScript code requires none of these dependencies. So if you want any dependency to be installed only for the development purpose, then you can add this configuration, that is saved app. What will it do is it is going to list all these dependencies in the dev dependencies key of your package.json file, and these dependencies will not be installed in the production environment. So the moment I hit enter, this is going to take some time and will install all these dependencies for us. Meanwhile, all this is getting installed, I want you to recall one thing. In the previous lectures where we were trying to build a simple HTTP server using the Node.js HTTP module, we were restarting our server every single time we were making any small change in the application code in order to test the updated or the new behavior. Why? Because we were not able to detect the changes in the file, and we had to manually restart the server every time we were making any small change. And this was a real pain for us. And in order to get rid of that pain, we are going to be using another utility which we have already talked about in the same lecture itself, that is going to be NodeMon. So we are going to be installing NodeMon so that we can restart our server automatically whenever any changes are made in any of our source code files. And since this dependency is also something that will not be required in the production environment, we shall be listing it inside the dev dependencies. So I would install this NodeMon as a dev dependency in this project as well. All right. So we have installed many of these dependencies. Now, it's time to convert this Node.js project into a TypeScript one. And in order to do that, we will have to define the configuration for a TypeScript project. And how do we do that? We can do that with the help of a file named tsconfig.json. So in order to create a file tsconfig.json in the current directory, we can make use of the command tsc that we had already used in one of our previous lectures, and we shall be using init with it. So tsc init. Now what will it do is, this will create a file named tsconfig.json with many settings listed in it in the current directory. And in order to edit this file, let's navigate to the VS Code window. All right, so here is our VS Code window. And what I'm going to do is, I am going to open this tsconfig.json file. As I told you before, this file comes with a lot of settings that are listed in it, but we are not going to be using all of them, and we shall only be using a few of these configurations. So what I'm going to do is, I am going to replace these configurations with some pre-made configurations that I have. So I am going to replace this compiler options object with what I already have. Okay, so what this is going to do is, this setup is going to ensure that a TypeScript is compiled into ES6 JavaScript. The compiled output goes into the build folder. Source files are expected to live inside the SRC folder that we are actually yet to create here. And interoperability with the common JS packages like Express.js and a few others. So basically the flag that you are looking at here, that is this ES module interop, it basically enables the compatibility between the common JS and the ES modules. All right, so we have defined these basic TypeScript configurations for our project. It's time to install the Express.js package. And in order to install that, I will have to navigate to a terminal, and let me open this terminal in the VS Code itself. Okay. So in the VS Code here, what I'm going to do is, I am going to say npm install Express. So I am going to install this Express as one of the dependencies for this project. And once this Express.js package is installed, I would like to remind you once again that since we are using TypeScript, we also need to install the type definitions for Express. And let's quickly install those as well. So npm install savedef. Now I am again using this savedef for installing the type definitions because we only require it for the development purpose and not for the production environment. So I would install this types for Express as the dev dependencies. Okay, so once this is done, what I would do is, I would quickly create a source folder as we have already configured in our tsconfig.json file, that our root directory is going to be src. And within this src folder, I am going to create a file named index.ts. Please note the extension here. I am creating this index file with the extension .ts, and it is not JS because we are working in a TypeScript environment. Okay, all right. So I have created this index.ts file. Now what will I do is, I will collapse this terminal and let me navigate to index.ts. Now what we are going to do here is, I am going to write a simple Express implementation here that would start this application at a given port and would allow to listen HTTP request at certain paths or endpoints. And in order to start with that, the very first thing that I would do is, I would install, or rather import, Express from the Express package here. Okay, let me put it in the double quotes. Now, after installing this, or rather after importing this, we have already installed this dependency. If you could recall, now we are only importing it because it is already available in our node modules folder of this project.directory. I am going to create an instance of this Express that we have imported. And I am also going to define, let's say, a variable which is going to specify that at which port number our Express.js application will start listening at. So for now, I have assigned a value of 8080. That means I want this application to start listening at port 8080 whenever this is started. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to call this listen method on this app instance. And this listen method accepts two things. First is going to be the port number where you want this application to listen at. And the port number is already defined in this port variable here. So I would say port. And the next argument is going to be a callback function that will be run when the server instantiation is successful. So this callback function will run when the server is successfully started. And here I would write a simple message saying server is running at port 8080. You could also replace this 8080 with this variable port. But for now, I am hard coding it with 8080. That's completely fine. Okay, so this is the message that we will see when this server is started. Now, when this server will be started, how will we get to know that if it is even handling any incoming HTTP request or not? Let's create a simple route definition here. So how do we create that? We shall be making use of this app instance that we have created from the Express, and we can use methods like get over it. And inside this get method, the very first argument we are going to provide is going to be the path where you want to listen at. So I would want to listen at the home endpoint. The next argument is going to be a callback function. And this callback function is going to accept two arguments in itself. The first argument is going to be the request object. The second argument is going to be the response object. So the format is kind of similar to what we have already seen while building the simple HTTP server in Node.js. And as soon as this request comes, if you can recall, in the HTTP module of Node.js, we were making use of the response object and we were calling a method called end in order to send some response back to the requesting client. Here also, we are going to adopt a similar approach and we shall be making use of this response object. But instead of calling the end method, we are going to call the send method. And here we would say, hello from Express and TypeScript app. So this is the message that I would add, or instead this is the response text that would be returned to the requesting client. Now, in order to check whether this is even working or not, what we need to do is we need to add certain scripts so that we can start our server and can test the behavior. So in order to do that, I would navigate to our package.json file and I would replace this existing script section with the one that I wish to define. So I wish to define these three scripts. These three scripts are dev, build, and start. Now, dev script is going to run the TypeScript server using NodeMon. Build is going to compile the TypeScript code into JavaScript code, which you can ship to the production environment. And this start command is going to compile JS and will start your server using Node.js. So build and start are the commands that you will use for running your production environment application. For development purpose, we shall be running this dev. So let's quickly run this server. Let me open the terminal again. And here I am going to say npm run dev. When I say npm run dev, soon we would be seeing this message that is server is running at port 8080. This confirms that the server has instantiated. Now, in order to check whether this server is even listening on certain paths or not, let's quickly navigate to Thunder client and see if we are able to send request. So let me quickly get rid of these warnings and let me hit this base endpoint or this base path of the application. Let me change the request method to get. The moment I hit send button, you could see I am getting hello from Express and TypeScript app. This is the exact same response text that we configured. All right. Now, coming back to index.ts, what I want to do is I want to make a small change here to test whether the server is restarting automatically or not. So if I add this a couple of exclamation mark and save my file, you could see that this server is automatically detecting these file changes and is restarting our server. Now, if I come back here and hit the same endpoint, then you could see I am getting the updated response text here, right? So that's great. We don't need to restart our application each time we make any small change here. Now, coming back to index.ts, let's quickly add. Okay, let me first close this server here and collapse this terminal. And let me quickly add another route implementation here. Let's say this is going to listen at about. And the response text that it is going to return is going to be, this is a about page. Now we have implemented two things here, or two endpoints here. One is the home endpoint, the other one is the about endpoint. And if I again come back to the terminal, start my application. So my application is up. And if I navigate to the home endpoint, then I'm getting this hello from Express and TypeScript app. And if I go to about, then I am getting this is a about page. That means all this is working fine. Now, if all this is working fine, let me talk about one more important aspect. So far, what we have written here is entirely JavaScript. We have not used any type annotations at all here. This means we have not leveraged the TypeScript here at all. So what we are going to do next is we are going to add some type annotations. And in order to do that, I am going to import some type definitions from the Express package itself. So what I'm going to do is, just like we have imported this Express, I am going to import a couple of more types here, request and response. And where shall I be using these as the type annotations? I shall be using these as type annotations in the callback functions arguments. So this is going to be request. This is going to be response. Similarly, this is going to be response, and the first argument is going to be the request. So now we have added some type annotations here, and this qualifies to be a TypeScript code, since we have added a few of those annotations here. Okay, so let's quickly break this down, that whatever we have done so far. So we have imported this Express module, and we have also imported a couple of type annotations, request and response from the Express module. Then we created an Express app using this Express function here, or this Express constructor here. Then we defined two endpoints or paths, you could say. One is slash, the other one is for about. And finally, we made our app listen at a particular port number. The port number was configured to be 8080 here. All right. So far we have tested our application with these couple of endpoints implementation, and we are getting the expected result in the responses that we are getting while navigating to these particular URLs that we have so far implemented in our application. Now, to quickly show you that how you can handle HTTP request of different methods like post, delete, put, etc., because get is something that we have already implemented here. All we need to do is we simply need to replace this get method with the relevant HTTP request method. So for example, if I want to listen for a post request on my home endpoint, all I would do is I would say app.post here. That's all. And now, after making this change, if I come back here in the terminal and start my application, that is npm run dab, and my server is still running here. So if I go to my Thunder client and I navigate to the home endpoint, so here I would navigate to the home endpoint and not the about one. If I click on send button, right now it is going to say 404 because it is not able to find anything implemented on the home endpoint with the get method. But As soon as I change it to post and hit this send button, then you could see it starts saying hello from Express and TypeScript app. This is the same response string that we were getting in case of sending get request to the home endpoint when we were making use of the get method. But now that we have replaced this get method with the post method, we can only send post method on the home endpoint of this particular application. Similarly, if you want to listen for other methods like delete, put, etc., all you need to do is you simply need to replace this post, this get with whatever method you want to start listening at. All right. So this was pretty much that I wanted to discuss, with a simple Express.js implementation. So to summarize, whatever we have done so far is we initialized a Node.js and a TypeScript project. Let me quickly close the servo. After initializing a Node.js project along with TypeScript in it, we installed Express.js and its required type definitions. We installed or downloaded all the type definitions in the dev dependencies so that we don't need to install those in the production environment again, and we can make the build slightly lighter. Then after that, we set up a basic project structure where we created this src folder and placed a index.ts file in it. Then we wrote a simple Express.js server here with a couple of routes implementations. Later, we tested this with different HTTP methods as well. And then we also configured a few scripts and ran our server using NodeMon so that we don't have to keep on restarting our server every time we make any small change. With the help of NodeMon, we are able to automatically restart our application as soon as any file is changed of our project. So this hands-on setup is the foundation for everything we will build moving forward. From here, we will gradually add more features like middlewares, route modularization, request parsing, error handling, and many more. In the next lecture, we will learn about some advanced concepts of Express.js framework, such as how to handle different HTTP methods, a demo of which we have already seen in today's lecture as well. We will also see how to use and implement middlewares in Express.js applications. Till then, feel free to play around with the code and probably try adding a few more routes or experiment with different status codes and the responses. So that's all for this lecture, and thanks for watching.